Hey guys, and welcome back to Z3 Cubing. Today I'm going to take a 4x4, put it inside of a bottle, and then attempt to solve it. After releasing my recent 2022 cube collection video, I realized that I was missing one cube, the GAN 12M Leap. Where did I misplace this $67 cube? Well, inside of a bottle. I put it in here for a video I made a few months ago, intending to take it out almost immediately, but for reasons that I'll get into, I never really got around to it, and so one of the world's best speed cubes has sort of just been sitting in here, unusable ever since then. My ultimate goal of that video was actually to fit this 4x4 inside of the bottle, because I actually solved this 4x4 one turn per mile while running that 100-mile race. I just thought it would be fitting to have a 4x4 inside, but unfortunately after getting the 3x3 in there, I realized that it was so tight that there was no way a 4x4 could fit. As you can see, the corners are all right up against the glass, and of course, a 4x4 is a lot bigger than a 3x3, so it just wasn't going to work. That is, at least this 4x4 wouldn't fit. I did get a lot of suggestions to use a smaller 4x4, which I initially shrugged off because it wasn't the 4x4 that I solved, but then I realized I would like to eventually get this expensive 3x3 out of here, and it would be nice to at least replace it with something. And so that's when I caved and finally bought the YJ Zilong Mini 4x4. As you can see, it's just a 56mm cube, which is the exact same size as most 3x3s, so it should fit just perfectly. It's also only $12 and it's magnetic, which makes it an amazing deal. So let's go ahead and get it opened up. Based on the overwhelmingly positive reviews, I would imagine this cube is actually totally speed solvable, and if you have smaller hands, it might actually be a good option for a main. The accessory box came with this little DIY cube stand, which is pretty funny. I've never had to put one of these together before. It also has a little instruction manual, as well as some extra magnets and a screwdriver, which we will definitely be needing soon. Let's try out the cube itself. At $12, it's definitely more of a budget speed cube, but yeah, that's actually really good. For someone with smaller hands, I would absolutely recommend this one. Let's go ahead and take off that logo. I always love when they're removable, just so it can match this 4x4 right here. And now let's shift our focus towards how we're going to be getting this inside of the bottle. The first step, I would imagine, is taking out the 3x3. So let's go ahead and pop off one of these center caps, which can be a little bit annoying on GAN's newer cubes, and then rotate their adjustment mechanism by 90 degrees until everything falls out. Now we just need to pull on that center piece, which should be the key to everything else falling out. So there we go, there's the center, and now all these edges and corners should just sort of fall apart, just like that. Now I believe once we have it disassembled down to just two corner sections, kind of like this, it'll now just come right out and get the rest of the pieces out of there, and we can deal with that 3x3 later, so that we have plenty of time to work on the 4x4. So my thought process about getting this in here is that we can maybe just do half and half. So if we just split the cube down the middle, I think there's a possibility that just this 2x4 half footprint of the cube will fit in there perfectly. Of course, it'll be a little bit more complicated because there will be parts of the mechanism sticking out each side of the cube, but we'll have to wait and see. So what I'm actually going to do is take some of this painter tape here, which is just sticky enough to stick onto the cube, but not enough to leave any residue, and basically tape around each half of the cube so that all the pieces are held together. So I'm going to start off just like this, going all the way around one half of the cube. There we go. And now I'll go ahead and repeat that on the other side, just like that. And now what I'm going to do is actually unscrew the screw right here and see what happens. Hopefully it just splits perfectly evenly into two halves. Okay, I was about to try and take that screw out of there, but then I realized that I don't think we even have to. It'll just come apart perfectly like that. And that is pretty cool looking. Just a 4x4 split in half. And now the moment of truth, will it fit inside of the bottle? It does! And now the second moment of truth, will the second half fit in the bottle with the first half already in there? And you know what? It is stupid close. I've been wiggling it around at all sorts of different angles, trying to get this one just at the perfect position, and then sliding it in there very carefully. But it seems like it's just kind of getting caught up no matter what I do, and it's just not going to go in there. But that's okay because we have a backup plan. I'm just going to take this upper section of pieces and split it in half one more time. So that'll require a little bit more tape, but then we should have two upper parts that we can stick in there individually, and hopefully everything will then fit. Okay, now this is going to get a little bit more complicated because as you can see, there's a lot of little inner pieces that are no longer being held together. And so what I think we have to do is sort of assemble these on one half of the cube, very carefully hold them, put both of these halves inside of the cube, and then stick them back together as fast as possible. Luckily, they do stick together magnetically, which should make our lives a little bit easier. Okay, so here's my plan. I'm going to tilt this half of the cube at just the right angle, and then very carefully lower this set of pieces down onto the cube, and basically just snap it into place. So this is going to take a little bit of concentration. No! Okay, let's try that again. Okay, I've attempted that way too many times and it's not working. So plan B, I'm just gonna set these pieces down into the cube. Hopefully they'll snap in there and then do the inner pieces later. So there we go, nice magnetic snap right there. And then lower each one of these pieces in individually. Getting these last few inner pieces in is no big deal, but what I fear might be a big deal is getting the last corner section in because this cube is already very tight in there. And yeah, there is no way this is fitting in as is. So I think our last remaining option is to just take the tape off the rest of these pieces as if we're assembling a 4x4 normally, which isn't really a big deal, but it might be a little bit tedious. So let's go ahead and get started with that time lapse. Okay, that wasn't actually so bad. Getting that last piece in there was very tricky, but having the center super loose helped. I screwed everything back in, I took half the tape off, and now I'm having a little bit of trouble getting the rest of the tape off because I can't rotate it this way inside of the bottle, which is weird because I could with the 3x3. I don't know if this cube is just a tiny bit bigger or maybe just less flexible. And so getting the rest of the tape off is going to be a little bit tricky. Maybe I should have done that before putting in the rest of the pieces. That would have made things a lot easier. Luckily, I did leave a massive flap there, so hopefully I can just go in and grab it and then rip it off from there. Okay, that wasn't working, so change of plans. It turns out you just have to push really, really hard, and eventually the cube does rotate. So let's do that one more time to get the yellow side facing up, and then we should be able to get all that tape off there. That is a very concerning amount of pressure that I'm putting on this cube. And there we go. Look at that. All the bottom corners started popping open just because of how hard I was pushing on it. But you know what? That does beg the question. Is this cube solvable? Theoretically, if you can rotate the cube, that means you should also be able to turn each side, and hopefully now that I've taken the tape off, it should make things a little bit easier. And yeah, it does seem like we are able to turn every layer individually. So maybe let's go ahead and scramble this up and see if it's actually possible to solve. Okay, I think I'm gonna call that scrambled. As you might imagine, it's very easy to turn these middle layers here, but the outer layers are a lot more difficult, about as hard as it was to turn the 3x3 inside of here, which makes sense because they're the same size. But let's go ahead and do some inspection of this bottle and then go ahead and solve it. I honestly wasn't expecting this to even be possible, so I'm super happy I'm able to end the video this way. Let's go ahead and get started in 3, 2, 1, and go. This is gonna be rough. All right, and we finally got our first two centers built. As it turns out, doing U moves a lot more difficult than you might think. Okay, we got our first 3 cross edges built. Now it's time for Yao centers. That step was actually comparatively easy because it really just involved turning these slice layers in the middle, which is super easy, as well as this one layer, which wasn't too bad. So now on to Yao edges, which will probably take quite a while. Well, my prediction definitely came true, but we now got all the edges paired. I'm not sure what happened to half my cross edges, they're just gone. But now it is finally time for 3x3 stage. This is also gonna take quite a while. Okay, other than doing all these U moves, which is kind of a toss-up as to whether or not it'll work, that was actually a really easy one. F2L actually wasn't too bad, but let's check out OLL. Oh my gosh, I forgot about 4x4 parity. This is gonna be painful. Well, every single one of those U2 moves was a case of getting incredibly unlucky with the bottom layer only wanting to turn and not the top layer. I think that's just because of the way I tensioned it. I screwed in that white side a little bit too tight, but remarkably, I actually managed to do the full 4x4 parity algorithm without messing it up. So now we're on to a very easy OLL. Okay, that was nice and easy. Now, moment of truth, what is our PLL? Okay, it's just a T-perm, no PLL parity. That one would have been a lot easier to do, but okay, just an easy old PLL. All right, last couple moves here. We are almost done, but the U prime is gonna be the hardest move. Okay, we did a D. Okay, we did a U. Okay, we did a D, and there we go, it's solved. That was basically my struggle the entire time doing U and D moves. It was very frustrating, but we did it. We put a 4x4 inside of a bottle, and we solved it. It may not be the 4x4 I wanted to put in there originally, but you know what? It's a lot better than nothing, and it's a lot better than having this $67 3x3 stuck inside of there. Oh, it turned so well. So yeah, this is my new 100-mile 4x4 trophy, a very fitting cube to be in there if you ask me. Anyway, I really hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see any other Rubik's Cube in a bottle type videos like this. Maybe I could get creative with some other type of puzzle, but that's pretty much it, and we'll see you guys next time.